fight over slavery was between the Democratic Party, North and South, that protected it, and the Republican Party, which only was in the North, that opposed it. That's what that fight was about.
You will literally never learn this in school.
Aren't you insulting all the intelligent people here and the 80% of African Americans who are Democrats by claiming that the current Democratic Party has anything to do with that Dixiecrat party from 50 years ago that was trying to stop them from voting? Aren't you conflating the word Democrat with progressive?
Okay, so if you guys don't know what's going on, a professor is trying to battle Denise, I think that's his name, Denise DeSouza, over racism within the Democratic Party specifically. And right now he's bringing up the fact that DeSouza said that the Democratic Party had a lot of they caused a lot of the issues within racism. And this professor didn't like that, and he said that it's insulting to the black community. Before I give my opinions, I want to play the video out a little longer so you guys can really hear this, and I hope you enjoy this. Let's go.
Have utterly nothing to do with each other. The current Democratic Party has absolutely none of those values from 50 years ago, and you're pretending that they are guilty of something. Aren't you trying to claim that Jesse Jackson is a dupe and shouldn't be supporting the Democratic Party because Abraham Lincoln was a Republican and freed the slaves?
The Democratic Party was the party of the Dixiecrats all the way through the 60s. And if what you say is true, that the blacks made a switch to their racial friends, it would appear that the black switch would have to come in the 70s and 80s, when blacks see these racists are now moving over there, so it makes sense for us to move over here. But in reality, blacks moved overwhelmingly to the Democratic Party in the 1930s. The black vote went from about 15% Democratic to about 70% Democratic within 4 years.
The places they could vote.
That's right, but
which was the North.
Also in the
Republican. Jackie Robinson was a Republican for darn good reason.
That's absolutely right. But here's what I'm getting at.
You wouldn't be today.
Well, we can debate Jackie Robinson because it's always difficult to know what dead people would say. If Martin Luther King were alive today, Martin Luther King isn't alive today. Okay, but here's the point I'm getting at. The reason that blacks switched from the Republican Party to the Democratic Party had everything to do with the benefits of the New Deal and nothing to do with racism. In fact,
here's what I'll say about this. I agree. I'm not going to say I agree with him because I haven't looked into what he's saying, but what he's saying makes sense. And the reason I say it makes sense is because when people say that the party switched, I have a hard time logically understanding that. And the reason is because of really one word, and that word is conservative. Conservative. What does that word mean? It means you're a little less open, you're a little more to yourself, you're a little more distant from doing or going against the status quo. That's what the word conservative just naturally means. He's conservative. He doesn't like to do too much in society or go do too many crazy things. And the reason why this is important is because what is a naturally conservative thing to do? Forget politics. You want to stay to yourself, stay with your family. You're not really that flashy. You just want to live a normal, conservative life. And conservatism as itself, in reference to how people live, that definition has never changed. Conservative has always meant I'm going to live below my means. I'm going to do exactly what I have to do, take care of me and my family. I'm not going to try to be too loud in society. That has never changed. That definition has been extremely constant for the past 100 years, at least. So if that definition has never changed, how is it that the Republican and Democratic Party switched? Because conservatism has always been attached to the Republican Party. At least from what I understand, I've never heard anyone describe a Democrat or the Democratic Party as conservative. I've never heard it. I have never heard it happen. So all I'm saying is, if the conservatism hasn't changed and that has not switched parties, how could it even be possible that conservative values were referencing Democrats at a point? That doesn't even make sense. It literally does not make sense. And if I'm wrong, let me know. But logically, I don't understand it.
Yes, and in the South, two blacks switched to the Democratic Party. It's not that blacks couldn't vote in the South. They said there were all kinds of barriers to black voting. Under FDR, there was blacks couldn't vote in the South at all. No blacks voted in the South.
Very, very few.
How many?
Absolutely.
How many?
I don't know.
Okay, I thought so. Look, there were all kinds of poll taxes and barriers imposed by the Democrats on the black vote until the Democrats realized that they could get the black vote by offering jobs, welfare, retirement programs. Are you telling me that FDR in the South was telling blacks who were voting for the Democrats, you can't vote? Not true. Not true. Blacks in the North and the South switched to the Democratic Party because of New Deal benefits. Many of them were very sad about doing it because they were leaving the party of emancipation and Lincoln and flinging themselves into the party of the Ku Klux Klan.
Bro, and I don't even know a lot about politics, but just think logically for a second. This makes sense. Why would you switch think of conservative values. Staying with your family, raising your kids, going to school, studying, not spending too much of your money on nonsense. Those are just naturally conservative values. Conservatism in the Republican Party have always been synonymous. I've never heard anyone refer to conservatism ever in reference to the Democratic Party. However, if there was a big switch, what can cause this big switch, especially for an impoverished community, which, if I'm being honest, during the 60s and 70s, the black community was actually making a lot of economic growth. However, there were still black people who were impoverished during this time. What would it make them want to switch parties? Social and economic benefits, and I mean literal benefits, such as a welfare system, such as a housing system, a Section 8 system, who knows? That will make people switch parties because they're saying, okay, these people are going to give me money to go on that side? Okay, I'll go. That is what can really cause a switch. Not the party switching. I don't think the party switched. If the party switched, I think history would be a lot more confusing, and I think people would juggle words a little more. But what will really cause a switch, logically speaking, that I noticed is maybe this party is giving you more money. They're saying you don't have to work as hard as society. We'll give you the money if you come over here. You don't even have to do anything. Wouldn't that make a switch? Wouldn't it make sense if they look at conservative values, which literally happened, and say, well, we don't want the two-parent household anymore. If you don't have a two-parent household, we'll give you money anyway, such as welfare. Where you have a kid, we'll just give you the money. That's not conservative value. That's not conservative at all. Conservatism is two parents, but that's not what the party did. And let's just be fair in the analysis here. That's not conservative. The parties couldn't have switched because some of the beliefs are not conservative beliefs.
And the Dixiecrats who were in the South and were in the Democratic Party. Exactly. So what I'm saying is it was a Faustian bargain in which you get economic benefits and at the same time you're in bed with the racists and you're on your own team. And I'm saying that's American history. Now, whites began to switch to the Republican Party, but much later. Whites began to switch to the Republican Party in droves in the 70s and 80s. Now, here's the point. If you look at racial opinion in the South, and there's a voluminous body of data on this, as racism in the South dramatically declines, the Southern identification with the Republican Party begins to increase. There's an opposite track. Racism is declining in the South, and whites begin to move to the Republican Party. In fact, two scholars who've written a book about this trace that the least racist Southerners all became Republicans. That the poor white racist Democrat never became a Republican. He was a dug-in Democrat to the end of his days. So the Democratic Party remained the party of racism. And as the South became less agrarian, more prosperous, industry came to the South, the post-industrial society, the Republican appeal of equal opportunity, free markets, prosperity, appealed to Southerners, and that's why so what I'm getting at is that the progressives have sold the South on a guilt trip. Even this whole thing about, the Civil War was really about slavery and the South did slavery. Wait a minute. Again, the Northern Democrats protected slavery. The Civil War, the fight over slavery, was between the Democratic Party, North and South, that protected it, and the Republican Party, which only was in the North, that opposed it. That's what that fight was about.
And you will literally never learn this in school. Maybe if you go to college and get a doctorate and you're studying it, or maybe a master's degree and you're studying it yourself, but you will not learn this. Because what is the perspective of the Civil War? It is the perspective, especially in a black school, is that they're fighting over slavery. That's the perspective it's taught from. And whether or not it's directly stated as such, that is the perspective, that is what teachers are alluding to when they talk about the Civil War. They never say, okay, one side is supporting slavery for financial benefit and one side is supporting it. No, they don't say that. They don't say one side is Democrat and the other side is also Democrat. They say one side is fighting for slavery and the good side, the side which is also still, I guess, Democratic, is fighting against it. They don't tell you what's really going on. So most people think it's about Republicans versus Democrats. And that's a problem.
It wasn't just, the North-South thing is now a disguise to hide the responsibility of a major political party that was the party of slavery for 100 years. True or false?
That's crazy. But if you have any suggestions, comment down below. It's LFR Jojo.